After the camp closed in 1945 and all of Heart Mountain's incarcerees had departed on the last train, the government was essentially left with a sprawling ghost town. Over the square mile that had once been the camp, there were more than 500 buildings that were now just sitting there, empty. But the government already had plans in place for what it was going to do with Heart Mountain. With all of the irrigation and agricultural improvements that had been made by the Japanese Americans over their time here, this land was ripe for use by homesteaders returning from the war. It's worth noting that the Japanese Americans from the camp who had gone off to fight in the war were not eligible for these homestead tracts. They were only open to white veterans. Many of the homesteaders moved into the camp and actually lived inside of the barracks while they were in the process of setting up their homestead claims. You see, to get your homestead claim, you had to not only make improvements to the land through farming, but you had to build a house or dwelling. And this is where the barracks come in handy. Eventually, the government began to sell these barracks off for $1 a piece. A homesteader could purchase 2 of them and take them out to their claim, where the government even offered plans for remodeling these into a modern ranch house. The catch to this spectacular deal was that you had to figure out how to haul them off yourselves. Now, each of these buildings is 120 feet long, longer than any flatbed trailer you were going to be able to find to haul it on, which meant that these buildings would have to be cut into pieces in order to be moved. In the barrack that we're standing in now, the one that is now here at Heart Mountain, we can see seams along the floor here, where the building was divided into 3 pieces in order to be hauled to its final destination. Now, this barrack did not go to a returning homesteader. In fact, it went first to the nearby city of Grable, where it became a community building in the Grable City Park, before eventually landing at its final destination in Shell, Wyoming, where it was part of Iowa State University's Geological Field School. Many of the Heart Mountain barracks still survive within the Bighorn Basin today, although several of them, you wouldn't even know it to look at them. We're here at the Powell Golf Club, where the clubhouse behind me is actually a Heart Mountain barrack. Now, it's changed over time. Some of the barracks have remained relatively intact, and they're used as garages or barns or machine sheds. But many of them have been changed, remodeled, added onto, and now they serve as people's houses, or they serve as community buildings like this one. But if you look closely, you can still see the signs of the original barrack. For instance, there's a unique peak to the roof that is distinct among the barracks. And there is, of course, that narrow 20-foot wide width to them. But if you look closer, you'll also see sometimes surviving original doors or original windows. We are in the process of trying to map out and identify all of the Heart Mountain barracks still within the Bighorn Basin. We want to dispel this myth that Heart Mountain is completely gone. In fact, many of the barracks buildings are still around us here. They're just somewhat in disguise. The barracks are still all around us, and Heart Mountain never really left.